Welcome to Storycomic Presents, where we interview amazing storytellers and artists. This is episode 274. I'm your host, Barney Smith of Storycomic.com, and we're excited to have with us the acclaimed and incredibly talented team of Strange Gruel, Bob Humble, Doc Dougherty, and Rick Blasdell.
Yeah, sure.
Hello. Hi, Barney. Hello, everyone.
How's it going?
Good.
Good.
Good. Well, it's been better, but it's going well now.
Come on, it was a little impromptu, but it worked out.
First of all, we want to talk about Strange Gruel and how this anthology series kind of got created. And also we want to talk about the fact that issue 4 is soon to be released as well. Is that correct?
It's coming. Matter of fact, here, that's it. So we've got some of the pages for the next one. I wanted to show Rick. This is Rick's first view of them also. So yes, this is one of the stories that is going to be in the next issue.
Okay.
I see a change I want you to make already. So
yeah, that's what it's like working with Rick. You got to be just so you're aware.
The graphic designer always wins.
And so basically all three of you do some writing, and you also do some illustration in the books as well, correct?
Yes.
that's
Okay.
correct.
All right.
Well, it's like a show. We all throw the stuff in and we all stir it around. Whatever comes out, that's it.
That's why it's called gruel. That's why it's called gruel. Sometimes it tastes good. Sometimes it doesn't taste so good. That's kind of how it works.
We all put our little 2 cents in and say, change this, or how about that? Or,
In essence, a lot of times what we do is brainstorm together
like
at our
Marvel
meetings.
used to do. Marvel used to do.
We brainstorm our together our meetings, some ideas, and then maybe step away and one of us will take it on and turn it into maybe an outline. Then somebody turns it into a script. So it's kind of fluid. Sometimes it's a little conversation that starts it, and then sometimes it's a full-blown thing right there. We talk it right through and get the whole story right away.
Right. And these are kind of almost as an inspiration and an homage to like the 1940s and 50s horror comics, correct?
Definitely that. But for me, the original conversation was with the Warren. But yeah, creepy and eerie as a starting point. It was one of my real inspirations, especially looking at Reed Crandall and Angelo Torres and all the greats at those first 4 or 5 issues. And ever since then, that's kind of what we wanted. I wanted to do, and I kind of dragged these guys along with me to do.
Well, I saw it too at that age.
No, this was his. He was on it too.
And so this basically started as Thread magazine was the inspiration of that back in 1996.
That was the first step. Yes, that's Rick's genius pulled that together. We had done individual stories, kind of on our own, and then Rick was the one who got the inspiration to put it together in a real nifty format. I thought it was really, really good.
Yeah, these are almost like the newspaper adventure strips of the 40s and 50s of Johnny Hazard and Steve Canyon, and the Europeans would turn that into more book instead of the newspaper strip style. So we were copying literally the European use of the book for adventure stories. Strange Gruel is much more of horror or strange as opposed to these are almost straight adventure.
Yeah,
Twilight Zone was a big inspiration too, I think.
Completely.
Short story.
Oh, yeah, it was the late 50s, early 60s. Twilight Zone, One Step Beyond, Outer Limits. In fact, there were a lot of them just forgotten by now. Nobody even heard of them anymore. And you're right. You watched that as the early kid. You didn't want to go to bed anymore because you were afraid to go up the steps.
And they won't if they read Strange Gruel too.
Our job is to keep people from going upstairs. Yeah. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, but just like those, we never crossed the line into anything other than simple, strange and hard.
Right.
We don't go anywhere past it. It's like a signpost. That's the end.
Right. So talk to us a little bit about just how the creation of Strange Gruel happened, and what's the process of how do you get each issue put together?
Well, I'd like to leave that to Rick to begin with, because he was the one who kind of made us make that next leap. So, Rick, what was your thought process in building the first book, the first Strange Gruel?
Well, we had discussed doing Thread magazine again, and we even actually considered calling it Thread again. But I wanted a little more esoteric title, I guess you'd say. And I also wanted to explore possibly doing it in color and having that option. I found out about the Amazon thing, the self-publishing on demand thing. So that kind of brought everything together. And these guys have been doing comic book stories for years. So we had a collection of comic book stories that we wanted to, do something with. So I thought, well, why not create an anthology in a paperback form? So that's kind of how it all came together.
Yeah.
So, Rick, what were some inspirations of some of the stories that you actually produced for Strange Gruel?
Well, like Bob and Doc said, Twilight Zone, was a big inspiration. So we've always liked those twisty ending, O. Henry type stories, Creepy Magazine and other inspirations. So they've been writing stories like that for a long time. I've always been a big Poe fan as well. So that whole genre of, I don't know, I guess you'd describe it as horror, but it's not the horror that people have nowadays with the blood and the gore and everything. It's more a psychological horror and strangeness. So, those kind of stories have always inspired us.
It's the unusual. It's Twilight Zone-like. Some of those were scary and horror.
And some of them were just strange.
Yeah, they were just strange stories, or they were, morality plays in which there's a twist at the end where somebody gets a just dessert.
It's O. Henry. What we're looking at is with the rise of literacy back in the latter part of the 19th century. These stories became real popular, like O. Henry, and then you look at the Sherlock Holmes stories and Saki, even Poe. Might say Poe started it. You could say that. So we're doing these kinds of stories, in which is not horror in the sense of somebody getting their head chopped off, but horror in the sense of somebody getting their just desserts when they thought they were getting away with something, or whatever. I'm saying, if you watch those old shows, that's pretty much how it worked out. Yeah. You get to the end, and then the police have got their hands on your shoulder. Those
Those that write the story, are you also the ones that illustrate it, or do you take turns writing and illustrating each other's stories?
The mix.
Well, it's also we try to do it. If I'm telling a story about Paris or something that I have a feel for, then I would do that kind of a thing. But if you go into the Austro-Hungarian story here, maybe Humble would be more suited to that kind of a thing.
It's interesting because, in essence, a lot of times we try and design. It's funny. I remember reading an interview with Archie Goodwin, and he said, those first couple of creepy magazines and Eries, he began to write for the artist he wanted to do it. And that's kind of what we end up doing also. So, we're like Doc said, if there's something that has
I'm a film noir guy. I'm a big city guy, and I like big city shadows.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're doing a Western, don't give it to me. Don't give it to me.
And then Rick, of course, is our designer. So he's the one who actually, may do some layouts for us and say, as a matter of fact, I got a sample of that here. What this story is that we're including is and I'm not really sure how to say it. It's a redo of a redo of a redo. I wrote this story a long, long time ago, and I thought it was kind of middling and it's a success, but we had it. And so what Rick did was he put overlays and redid some of my compositions.
He redesigned it.
Huh.
And then I put it on my light board and redrew over top of it in my style. And now I'm inking it. So Rick kind of added his design perfection to it. And also Rick is the one that makes kind of the, I think some of the stories are from him because they fit his sensibilities also.
Right.
So he'll put a story in there that way with a twist that he wants.
Right.
Yeah,
Now,
so like
is
the
it
old
so?
pulp
They tend to be the most successful stories too, the ones that I have any
thing.
We let them think that. We do let them think that.
Do all of you basically make this as an homage to the pulp comics of the 40s?
I think you guys definitely have a sort of an homage mentality, which I have tried to sort of incorporate in the design I do. Like I was telling you, Barney, with the old paper scans that I'm using in the backgrounds of a lot of these stories is kind of was inspired by that, trying to give it an old-fashioned feel.
And also too, with the three of you, do you feel as though there's some sort of like educational aspect of this to kind of like make sure that, you know, newer generations of comic book readers can start to appreciate this type of work as well?
Yeah, it's a
Yes,
moral
sir.
lesson for parents. Don't let your kids read this because it'll be horrible for them. I'm just
No, I
kidding.
think it's right. I think that what I find in Europe, especially in the French or the Southern European market, is that they have a love affair for these guys going back almost 50 years. American comic strip guys and also the European guys like, John Giroux.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think also, you know, we have this discussion a lot. There is I don't even know how to put this. I think there's a general, and I don't want to say it the wrong way, but there's a general malaise in the world. Like everybody has a dark view of everything. And you will often see people, which I find very funny, when they're going to do a sequel to a movie, they'll say, well, this time we're going to add darkness. And I'm like, well, you can't get any darker than you already did it. So we kind of see it the other way around. I see it that way. I like the and Doc has coined this term, indemnification. Most stories that we see from the past or from those eras had an indemnification to them. In the end, there were just desserts, or there was a
society,
payoff.
or society was back where it started.
Society is back where it started, despite the big turn it might have made. And I think that's lacking in a lot of what people read or see today. And I'm hoping that if we make it attractive enough in its look and its format, that people will begin to see that a story can have an ending that doesn't necessarily end positively, but ends indemnified, where it's balanced. It comes back to balance.
Yeah, read Ring Lardner or Theodore Dreiser, or some of those guys in the the Lost Generation of about 100 years ago, and you'll see that they would get pretty close to pushing it. But then at the end, they would say, "Okay, I close the door. We're back to normal again."
Yeah,
and those are the kind of stories we're trying to tell. You don't want to say, "Oh boy, I burnt the house down. Everybody's happy." No, I want to save the kid on the top floor. I want to save grandma.
That's right.
I'd also like to make this point before I forget it, is that there are not only short stories in this, there are picture puzzles and humor. So it's a collection of a lot of different things.
Yeah, but you got to use your brain and you got to know how to read too.
I kind of call it's like almost a comic book Twilight Zone with a little bit of highlights for children thrown in.
Yeah, why not?
There you go.
Some Monty Python as well. So
but
it's a real eclectic mix of stuff.
Right, it's harmless.
Yeah.
At no time is your world shaken. At no time. It's like watching Wizard of Oz. It's all a dream. Don't worry about it. Not real.
Actually, Wizard of Oz is a good example. Wizard of Oz is a great example of a way to tell something that is both frightening and adventurous, and it teaches
friendship.
Right, it teaches lessons like friendship and that kind of stuff. Yet at the same time, it is a fantasy. A kind of a fun thing that you want to do again, even after it scared you in the first time.
Exactly.
So how does this work with do you guys kind of script something out, and do you edit each other's scripts to say, hey, you got to put something near the end of this, or you're kind of starting slow on this script, or how do you two, the three of you, edit each other's scripts before you actually start doing like pencil to sketching things out?
Rather than say edit, I'd just say suggestions, and then we usually leave it up to the creator.
We got some food on the table. We got a glass of iced tea. We just talk. That's all.
Yeah, we talk a lot. As you can tell.
And I think Rick put it well. It's a matter of, if a story is someone's story, it's theirs. However, we rely on each other's perspectives to add,
we trust each other.
Yeah, exactly, or to tilt it in certain
We're kind of
ways.
like the Beatles of the comic book industry. You know, we write our individual stuff, but everybody can.
Where's that girl at?
I take that back. We're not like the Beatles.
And so, what were the three of you? What is one particular story that one of your others wrote that you really loved a lot?
Oh, I like Sanguine. I thought that was pretty good.
I wrote a story for Doc called, but it's a short story. It's not in Strange Gruel at this point, so it's more of a short story. But I wrote it with Doc as the main character, as a young artist in Paris, because it's just like him. And of course, there's a murder mystery involved in it.
Yeah, along St. Martin's Canal. You got
yes. So that was one thing. My favorite from Rick wrote a really good one also. Yeah, I like the one Rick wrote about the escaped convict.
Yeah, that's this
track. That's that one.
There
the one he's holding up. I thought that was an excellent story, and it really had a really nice twist in the end. And it's in which book? Is that 2 or 3?
This is 2.
It's in 2. It's in book 2.
Book 2.
Okay.
Yeah, me, I like the plot. I mean, I like to look at an idea, I look at a place and say, okay, now you put those two things together, where's this going?
But this is a real collaborative effort. I mean, sometimes sometimes one of us will just get an idea. We'll brainstorm. We'll say, hey, I got this idea about this convict that escapes prison and he goes searching for his old girlfriend. Right. What do you think about that? And I want this twist ending to it, and then we'll talk about it. And Doc will say, you could have him, say this, and Bob will suggest something, and then maybe one of us, like in this case, I went back and wrote the script, handed it to Bob. He did the artwork, handed it back to me. I colorized it, did all that stuff. So it's a back and forth.
Right. And so do you all say when you write these scripts out that every story kind of has to have some sort of, like, as you mentioned, like a meaning or a theme or a lesson at the end, like as an homage to those 50s? Yeah.
I think Bob's stories tend to have a moral lesson to them, or a lot of his stories actually are maybe the story of a villain, but somehow it twists around that he gets his just desserts in the end. I'm maybe not quite that. I don't know what you call it, lesson oriented, or as long as it's a decent story. I'm more like a Poe, I guess. Not nearly as good.
But to me,
more atmosphere and interesting stuff going on.
What I was going to say is that if you look at the Sherlock Holmes series, you'll see that a lot of times he doesn't turn the guy over to the police, or he doesn't do certain things, but the person is punished anyway. Meaning that Conan Doyle does not say, well, I did my job, I'm going home. No, I have to make sure that society is okay. Poe's ideas are the dreams of somebody who's has a nightmare all the time, and it's okay. That's okay too. That his stories are nightmarish, so they don't have to make sense at the end.
It's interesting that you said that, because one of the things we talked about Twilight Zone as an inspiration, and really you could look at Twilight Zone and say the same thing. You can say, if you wanted a morality tale, it was most likely written by Rod Serling himself. If you wanted a horror story, it was going to be by either
Matheson.
Richard Matheson or what was the other guy's name? I can't think of the other guy's name. But they
Beaumont.
That's it, Charles Beaumont. They were the scary guys. They're the ones that did that. And then you had Earl Hamner Jr. writing the kind of fantasy in the bucolic fantasy kind of things that happened. So yeah, I think we each have a perspective, and it does influence the other's stories every now and then.
Right. How has the three of your stories and art styles evolved and changed based on the fact that the three of you are working together now?
That's a good question.
That's a good question.
Well, first I was always the guy who liked hard shadow.
This guy taught me shadow. This guy has made me more shadowed.
You know, he likes to draw, but he likes to draw it out. Me, I like to, just like Bonnie Racing, you take that big brush, and as Joe Cupid used to say, it can't get dark enough. That's what he used to say. You know, keep putting it in there.
Keep putting it in.
It can't get dark enough.
So yeah, I think I've picked up a lot more shadows and shading as a result of working on his stuff, especially inking his work.
Yeah, I use the German expressionistic shadow across the face and across the body. So all you see is parts of a head coming out of the darkness. You know, it's like watching those old German films of like Caligari and things like that.
And Rick is about composition and elegance to me. So he's the one who can often take a panel and say, no, why don't you have him look over the person's shoulder or do it this way?
Yeah, more cinematographic.
So he's going to actually he's influenced me that way by making me think more in terms of camera angle instead of just drawing.
Well, like I was saying, Barney, I started out as a filmmaking major.
Yeah, it makes sense.
We're meeting these guys, and it all went to hell.
Yeah, we drew him down with us. We dragged him down into the gutter.
and so I'm just... It's all how you tell that story.
He was so promising at one time, and now look at him.
So talk to us a little bit about this contest that you guys have on your website. Is this still something that people can still go into?
Yes. That's still there.
It's still there. We need people to go to it, though. We do need people to go to it. So we're so glad to meet you, Barney, because maybe it'll send some people there, which would be nice.
Yeah, so talk to us a little bit about what the contest is.
Go ahead, Rick. That one's yours.
It's a sketch that I got out of, well, actually, there's two sketches I got out of Bob's sketchbook. Here.
Or do you have one there? Good. You got
Here's one of Bob's sketchbooks, which has hundreds and hundreds of illustrations in it.
Wow.
So I just took a sketch out of one of his sketchbooks and decided to make a contest where anybody who submits a title and then a short description about what's going on in that picture can, and then what if we we'll pick one, the best one, and include it in our next book.
Okay.
So you can have your work,
your name up in lights,
published in our book.
And so people can order book 1, book 2, and book 3 by going to strangegruel.com and being able to order them directly right now?
No, they'll send you to a link where you can buy them on Amazon.
Okay.
You can go through Strange Gruel, and it'll send you directly to an Amazon link.
Right. And this is a fantastic deal. Like, it's for $11. You can get a 64-page full color comic book. Yeah.
And you better order it soon because the prices are going up. As I told you, the on-demand price to print the books is going up a little bit. So we might have to make a minor adjustment to the price.
Mm. Yeah.
But it won't be a major. It might go up $1.
Right. Yeah, that's amazing. And so if people want to learn more about your works, guys, where's the best place they could go to?
Strangegruel.com. Doc
has his work here at So Charles Dougherty dot
Dougherty.
Weebly dot
Dougherty.
Dougherty?
Yes,
He's an
Dougherty.
Irishman.
Okay. All right. I said your name wrong at the beginning of the show then too.
No,
Sorry about that, Doc.
Don't worry about it.
I was in Dougherty. Okay, that makes sense. Charles
My name
Dougherty.
is actually pronounced throat warbler mangrove. So
Spell sideways, yeah.
that's an old Monty Python joke.
Yeah.
And then Bob, you're at robertthumble.weebly.com.
That is correct. I've got some paintings there.
Yeah.
And a few other types of illustrations. I think Rick put put some sites together very nicely for us also, because in the past I've done a few other things.
Oh, okay.
I was just going to say, yeah, I've done. I used to do a history article for my local newspaper, and I've got a few of those posted in there too. And then some of my more bizarre paintings he's put up there too.
Yep.
Amazing. And then Rick, you're at rickblasdell.blogspot.com.
Right.
Yeah. And all of those links, for those that are listening and watching, all of those links can be found at strangegruel.com. I gotta say, guys, this work is amazing. I love the homage, as was mentioned before the show. I love the 1940s and 50s horror comics, and like the three of you are bringing it back. And this literally is a love letter to the comics from the 40s and 50s.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
That's amazing praise.
Yeah, that's wonderful play. We were hoping to make the people think that or want that. So I appreciate you saying it. We really do.
Yeah.
And Barney, your check is in the mail.
Confederate war bonds. You got it.
That's perfect. So guys, you need to come back on again once you have like issue 4 coming out. Come back on. This has been great.
Great. Fantastic.
to.
Thank you for having us.
We love it. This is a great time.
Barney, it's great meeting you and meeting someone who's keeping the comics conversation going through tough times. So I really do appreciate it. It's very nice to meet you.
You know, somewhere where you can all meet and see the crowds and and talk to people.
Right. Yeah. Somewhere right next to Pittsburgh, right, Rick? Is that the Pittsburgh? Right?
Pittsburgh.
Hey, I'll even go to Pittsburgh.
I like Pittsburgh. I do.
Heck, I'd love to go to Vermont. I've never been to Vermont.
There you go. All right. Thank you.
I've been to the upside down state.
The upside down. Yeah, but which one? Which one is upside down?
They all were like that.
All right. Yeah. I did an entire interview with somebody, and I didn't even have my mic on. So it was, there they are. I see them.
Oh, good.
Or not.
There they are.
Hello, Barney. Nice to meet you at last.
There they are. How's it going, Bob? Hey, Doc.
Wow.